Hey, welcome to my mini series, The Process Chat, where I bring conversations surrounding getting started in business, exit planning, and everything in between. I'm Adriana, your operational guide to helping you build processes so you can focus on progress. Today's episode focuses on independent contractors and employees. So before I get started with everything, I just want to make note that what was I about to say? I want to make note that I'm operational based and that this is, if you need support in this realm, definitely one, check out the IRS website. And also two, speak to an HR compliance professional because again, I'm operational based. So some things you may need to talk to a different professional. And yeah, so we're just going to kick it off and start with what's the difference between independent contractors and employees. Let me pull up my little thing so I can stay on task. So what I want you to do, if you're watching this live or catching the replay, we're going to draw like our invisible little square. So we got our square. This represents the business. Got yourself inside that little square. This is you. And we're also going to draw, because I'm going to start with employees first. We're also going to draw like some little people, do some faces, whatever. So these are your employees. So inside the business, you have your internal support or your internal staff. These are employees. So with employees, you are able to pretty much decide everything for them. You have more control for your employees. I mean that in the nicest way, in the nicest sense too. So you have control of your employees, but with that control with the employees, you are in charge of literally everything for them. So like job titles, job descriptions, the payment schedules, all that stuff. You are in charge of everything when it comes to running employees. However, you have more control over like their schedules, how they work, how things operate, all that jazz. So with that in mind, you have, again, employees. They're the internal. You control everything for them. Then you have independent contractors. So independent contractors, is again, we got our little square. You got your people inside there. Outside, you could do like little circles, smiley faces, people on the outside of that square. So independent contractors are your external professionals. These people come in, people like me, pretty much. People like independent contractors are like your freelancers, business owners, or whatever title people are using. And these are your external people that you tend to hire inside business. Now, when it comes to independent contractors, however, you don't have control over schedules. You don't have control. You don't pretty much have control. Like it's more of a partnership. So you guys can agree on certain terms, but at the end of the day, independent contractors don't represent solely your company. Like they represent their own thing if they have their own company, but they represent themselves. Like that's them. So like you don't control like the schedule. You don't control how they get trained. Normally, these are people that you hire for a particular expertise that comes in to help you build out or do whatever you're doing inside the company, but they don't have any other relation to you other than that. So when it comes to employees, of course, like you control everything, but you control the schedule and stuff. Independent contractors, they're their own person. Like they're coming in to help you with whatever thing you need help with at that time, but like you don't control anything else for them. So with that being said, that's all I have for that portion. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to blurred lines, I put for employees and independent contractors, I kind of want to focus on this from the independent contractor standpoint because in a perfect world, employers would know the type of professionals they need to hire. And this is why I highly, highly recommend that everybody that's hiring talk to someone in HR, compliant, anything. Like I feel like I guess we go hand in hand, but like I feel like everyone needs to talk to somebody in HR. If you're planning to hire, have a conversation with HR because they'll be able to help direct you, like who's the best hire, all that stuff that you need with them. So like again, I only have from an operational standpoint, so I can only talk about like the process building, policies, and all that good stuff when it comes to aligning things to your day-to-day or your exit strategy. So like I mentioned, there are a lot of blurred lines that goes on when it comes to these two different things. And again, I want to focus more so on the independent contractor side because I feel like a lot of issues that happens is because either independent contractors don't realize they have particular rights or they shouldn't have like so much limited control with certain people, or there really is just like a huge disconnect. So like I mentioned, I want to keep saying this because this gets confused a lot. Employees are the people that you can choose their schedule. You can figure out how they work, when they work, all that stuff. I don't recommend spyware and stuff because I feel like if you built strong enough systems, like it shouldn't matter. But it happens. You can control that stuff. With independent contractors, since we are our own entity, we are in control of how we work, how often we work, how many projects we can maintain, all that jazz. So like that stuff falls on us. So like when I'm trying to think of what kind of blurred lines we usually see often. One of the common ones I see when it comes to independent contractors, one with the blurred lines is the type of services you offer. So sometimes, like I know, especially in the online space, a lot of us like giving certain titles to what we do, like manager. I'll say managers. Like a lot of people are like portraying themselves to be managers, and they're really not managers. So like let's say an employer ends up hiring you to kind of come in to help manage something, but they don't have like a team or something like that. So like the job titles you choose actually matters. And if you don't follow along with the general job description, I know we're our own entity and stuff, but like it's still helpful to look at job descriptions of what title you say you are, because if you're going in saying you're a manager, but like you're really an executive admin, whenever you're going in as a manager and let's say the employer gets audited, if they have the wrong job title, they're going to want to see, why did you hire a manager for all this stuff? You don't have any people to manage, or they're in this segment. Like what exactly kind of task is this person doing? You can actually get them in trouble. And the same thing goes for employers. If you're hiring somebody, look for job titles. I still recommend people still have job titles for whatever roles they're hiring, even if you are hiring independent contractors, so you can at least have like a general idea of what you're looking for. So that way it aligns with whatever you're actually needing help with, what you're saying is. And like in the worst case scenario, you actually get audited and they have to look at the people and stuff that you hired. It aligns with what you hired them for. So like that's one of the things. So being careful of how you label yourself definitely is something as an independent contractor, or anybody really, because there are some blurred lines within employers hiring employees and giving them random job titles. Like I'm not going to answer that actually. I told myself to keep this short, but there are some blurred lines when it comes to that. This overall thing, make sure you are giving yourself job titles that actually align with what you are doing, especially if you're someone that works with different organizations or bigger companies or whatever. Like make sure everything aligns just to make things easier. Another thing I wanted to draw attention to with the blurred lines is when independent contractors only have one client like they're looking for. That is a huge red flag. And excuse me, this is also something I tell people to look for. So like independent contracts, like again, they are external forces that you hire to assist with some kind of skill set that you may not have within the company, or you just want like an outside opinion, whatever. Their job is to just do whatever you hire them for, which is why job title stuff or task list and all that stuff are important. They are only hired to do whatever you need them for. Like that specialty skill that you hire them for, that's what independent contractors for. But if you are what was I saying? If you are hiring an independent contractor, and more so on the independent contractor side. So like if you are an independent contractor, you only want this big client, you only want to work with this main client, that's a blurred line, because independent contractors should have many projects that they are seeking. And even if you only working with one client at a time, it's fine. But like you have to be able to show that you are consistently looking for clients, even if you only have one. And that's the key difference right there. So like it's one thing to only have one client, but you're actively seeking others. Whereas you're like, I only want this one client because they're big or whatever. That is actually something that's frowned upon, because if you're an independent contractor, you should be seeking other projects. You should not only have one client, because like, again, it starts to look like an employer-employee situation. And when that comes in, again, we get audited and we're like, okay, we'll look through social media and stuff because people don't realize they do look at stuff like that. So like if they can clearly see you're not marketing and this person is your only client and you kept it like that because whatever reason, that sets both, like it messes them up too, because like this is where the employers get in trouble because it's just like, okay, like you hire this person, they should have been an employee under the company because you're clearly not keeping things, you're not marketing, you're not doing all these things. So it looks like an employer-employee relationship. That gets people in trouble too, because again, independent contractors, they should have multiple projects that they're seeking. It should not be just, I want to work with one client because they're huge or I don't have time, things like that. And we fall into that scope or mindset because it just backtracks like the boundaries that we have to have set for ourselves as independent contractors. Like you have to have a way where you're still consistently looking for clients, even though you already have one big one. And where's another one I want to bring up? The last one I wanted to bring up is employers requiring employee traits. So this again goes under independent contractor, like how to kind of protect yourself. Well, I'll get into that in just a moment. But the last thing, employers looking for employee traits. And what I mean by that, because like again, independent contractors control their own schedule, they have their own boundaries set, all that good stuff. And sometimes, like again, this may be accidental because like people just honestly don't realize the type of individuals they need and who they need to hire. So sometimes employers will hire independent contractors thinking they can give them 40 hours a week, or you have to do this thing, or I need to train you on XYZ. And it doesn't work that way. And this is where independent contractors need to come in and be like, well, you hired me to do this specialty skill set. I already know how to do a skill set, which ideally in a perfect world, you only hire independent contractors when you need a specialty skill set or to take over something for you. And that be that. But again, I digress. But the main thing here is that employers sometimes hire independent contractors, but they list them that for tax purposes, but they actually have you doing employee duties. So like going through trainings. Independent contractors don't go through trainings. You should not be training independent contractors. Like you can give like standard operating procedures of like how you do a particular task for the thing that you hired them for, but like you can't sit there and have them go through like a full training thing like you have your employees. Your employees are your internal people for a reason, so that's why they go through like all the trainings and stuff. Independent contractors they can have standard operating procedures, but like they are a specialty person that you hired. And that's honestly it. That specialty person that you hired to fulfill a contract, however long that may be. There shouldn't be anything else alongside with them. And yeah, so there's that. So sometimes, like again, employers will hire independent contractors, but assume they can give employee traits to them. So like choosing their hours, telling them when to work, how to work, all that good stuff that they would have their employees do, but shouldn't. So this is where independent contractors need to come in and be really mindful. Just remind them like, hey, this is like a partnership type thing. You hired me to do XYZ. I can only do XYZ, and that be that. So the main thing to be able to protect, this is kind of like a really short video because I just want to ease into this, but the main thing you want to understand, because I repeated this so much throughout this video, is that independent contractors, like again, we have our little square. Independent contractors are the people, you have them outside the square, the little X's, little happy faces, whatever you have. These are the external forces. They only come in to do a particular specialty for you for the business. And your employees that's inside the square with you, these are the people you are able to kind of mold in how you want them to be for the company, because they do the training videos. They are more aware of like the internal process and stuff that you have. You can control the job description, job chase, and all that stuff. Of course, I say be ethical when you do that stuff, but you're more in control of that. So like that's why the employees are inside the square with you. Independent contractors kind of on the outside. So like when it comes to understanding the difference, of course, speaking to someone in HR will always recommend someone doing that, making sure you're compliant, because of course every business is a little bit different, so you may have different laws depending on your location and stuff. So definitely speaking to someone in HR is your best bet. Also too, On the flip side, for independent contractors, it is really important for us to make sure we have boundaries set, like figuring out like the structure of the business before we start bringing other people in. And when I mean other people, clients, but before you start bringing clients, you want to have an idea of like how your work processes are. You want to figure out how many projects you can take at a time, how many projects you need, how much income and stuff you need to be coming in, if you want to hire other people to help you with the projects. But overall, you want to make sure you're also educated on what independent contractors are, because sometimes people really don't know what the difference is. And it's up to us to be able to tell them, hey, I'm this, I can only help you with XYZ. So, like, being able to speak up or finding someone else that can help speak up for you about what's happening is definitely key. So, that's pretty much all I have when it comes to like the independent contracts and everything. Was gonna say, I think there's one more thing. Yeah, pretty much make sure you lead employees too. There's not, mainly because I'm sticking to this. Employees, just make sure your employer is doing the right thing, and don't be afraid to draw attention to certain things too, because there are instances where employers will mark you as an independent contractor, but really have you doing employee stuff. So that is something also to be aware of. It's just more so make sure you're educated, make sure you're aware of everything. And if you're someone that plans to hire, make sure you're aware of these differences and don't set yourself up to be audited and get in a lot of trouble with the IRS. That's the last thing you need. So that's all I got for today. So if you enjoyed this segment, you can join me next week where I'll be talking about using AI for policies and processes. If you want to stay connected after this round, feel free to join my email list. I'll make sure I put the link somewhere in the comments or something, or depending on where this is streaming at, or because repurpose that, feel free to click the link in my bio and you can join my email list. And if you're watching this before March 29th, I am having a strategic hiring workshop where I'll be helping you map out who your next hire will be, how to create the right process and policies for them. And yeah, that's all I got. I will be back next week. I cannot wait to talk about using AI for policies and stuff. So y'all stay tuned.